Blessed to be with you, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, and having done this in the Treasure Valley for almost 10 years and almost 25 years professionally, it is a privilege and a great responsibility to wake you up each and every morning, or if you listen to the podcast, that you tune in and you go, man, I wonder what the crew is up to. Today is going to be a challenging day. Sure, we have a lot to celebrate here in the Treasure Valley. It's Friday, it's the weekend. We've got the Idaho Army and Air National Guards returning home. We've got Oregon state senators on the run from the Oregon government, led by the governor of Oregon. No, this isn't audio clickbait. This is truly what's going on in the Emerald State. We'll talk a little bit about that. But first, we go to a story that certainly resonates with a lot of people over the age of 35. Now, when I was under the age of 35, I used to hate when people would put age qualifiers on topics. And maybe that's unfair of me. Maybe that is unfair of me when we're talking about younger people, because we have a significant portion of young people that have either had their families or themselves have gone to war, have been in Iraq, have been in Afghanistan. So without that first world experience, if you've experienced, well, since September 11th, our responses through watching television, maybe having a friend or a family member that has gone off to war, or you just live in the world of the Matrix where it doesn't really matter what goes on because, you know, bridges get blown up, buildings get blown up, countries get invaded, but hey, my Bitcoin is going up and I'm going to go game online all night. That's not a knock, it's just an observation. Folks, we are close. We are close to going back to war. I truly believe that. And as Ray Amaya can tell you from his many years here on KIDO Talk Radio, there is a special responsibility for stations like this, especially this one, Idaho's first radio station, that when it comes to war, that we will be with you every step of the way. Because there's going to be updates. And yes, we have phones and we have the KIDO Talk Radio app, but the ability to speak, the ability to talk, the ability to give you real-time updates and hear what you have to say is unique to properties such as this. Now, again, to our contemporary brothers and sisters in the media world who, you know, are focusing in on other things, that's their job. And look, we've got a lot going on. We've got the Boise Music Festival this weekend. We have the Treasure Valley God and Country Show coming up Wednesday. We have the KIDO Talk Radio Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic coming up. We've got a whole summer. But this Iranian situation could be the most dangerous situation that we have faced since Vietnam. I'll get your thoughts on that because I love it when unlike other talk show hosts, and I'm not smacking anybody, when I'm out in public, people go, well, what do you have to say? Dude, I like to listen. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. War with Iran is long overdue. Now, we're going to have Congressman Fulcher on today, but war with Iran resonates to people over 35, and it should resonate with everybody. The Iranian regime has been a thug regime for quite some time. The Iranian regime has sponsored terrorism, have attacked Americans, have done everything they can to destroy our way of life. They chant the great Satan again and again and again, right? They chant it all the time. Ever since 1979, or was it 78 when the Ayatollah took over? And we always thought that the Ayatollah Khomeini, and if you don't know who that guy is, YouTube, Google him. We always thought that we could work with the Ayatollah. He'd be a good Ayatollah. He wouldn't be a bad Ayatollah. The Ayatollah hated us. He pulled a bait and switch. They took over our embassy, held hostages there. American Held Hostage was actually a program on television, and it wasn't a comedy. And these guys have been bad actors in that region forever. And now they have troops in Syria, they have troops in Iraq, they have troops in Afghanistan, and they've shot down a drone. They've shot down an American plane flying in international waters. That's really what they've done. They have called us out. So last night, I'm not making this up. The president of the United States says, well, we're going to give them the fist. He gets the planes up. They're in the air. It's literally like a movie. Literally like a bleeping movie, friends and neighbors. It gives me goosebumps sharing this with you this morning right here on KIDO Talk Radio. Right? Literally in the air, missiles locked. We're going to take down their radars. We're going to take down their missiles. Iran, you will feel the wrath of the so-called Great Satan. And then he stops, calls the troops back. Now, whether somebody got to the president, whether he wanted to negotiate, you see what's going on here. The Iranians are in no mood to negotiate. They make fools of us all the time. Take a look at what happened to President Obama. Take a look at what has happened to everybody else, right? That has dealt with the Iranians. The sanctions are crippling them. So they had to shoot down that drone as a show of saving face. But now they've escalated the situation. The president says, I want to negotiate. The Iranians, they don't want to negotiate. They don't want to negotiate at all. Here's our own Benjamin Hall with the very latest on KIDO Talk Radio.
President Trump has twice used Tomahawk missiles in the Middle East, and so it was entirely feasible that this was going to happen. And all the reporting suggests that this was both underway, very planned, and very close to U.S. forces striking Iranian targets. But at the very last minute, the president made the decision to call this off. The decision was originally made when the RQ-4 Global Hawk drone was shot down on Wednesday evening. President Trump then approved military strikes against Iran, and that operation was in its early stages, according to this reporting from the New York Times. Planes were in the air, ships were in position, but no missiles had been fired when word came to stand down.
Do we have any type of security that the New York Times would get this story? Or do we just send a press release? Hey, we were going to shoot the missiles. Now, a couple of things. And by the way, 580-5436, we'd love to get your thoughts on this. I know Ron Paul, Jim thinks this is Wag the Dog, Mark from Eagle as well. But for those critics that have said all Donald Trump wants to do is get us into a war, that Donald Trump wants to get us into a war so that he can get reelected. That's not the case. That's not the case at all. Trump wanted to get us out of wars. Look, the media has not given him any coverage of this. But the foreign policy has been pretty darn good under President Trump. Afghanistan, the Taliban destroyed. Al-Qaeda on the run. ISIS destroyed. Remember how ISIS had the caliphate that got Glenn Beck fired from Fox News? Glenn Beck was right. Glenn Beck was right. Glenn Beck was right. Back when he was Glenn Beck. Right? He was right. The president comes in, gets rid of the reprehensive, restrictive rules of engagement, and our men and women clean up on these guys, destroy them. They're irrelevant, right? President's foreign policy should be given an A+. He brought, what's his name? Kim Jong-un, Kim Jong-il, Kim Jong-un to the table. Now we have Iran. The president doesn't want war. Jim Risch last night, Senator Risch, president doesn't want war, everybody. I get it. This one might be one he can't avoid. This one might be one Donald John Trump might have to take America to war. The Iranians have nothing to lose. The Iranians will destroy us. They're already arming up their nukes. They're ready to go. And it really comes down to life and relationships. You know, I was talking to somebody yesterday about a business. And I said a business is like a sports team or like a fighter or like that one decision. For Adolf Hitler, it was invading Poland, invading Russia, when he had the world on its heels. That was that one fight he shouldn't have taken. Hubris got the best of him. For others, it's that one person in the bar, in the gym, in the parking lot, wherever, that has nothing to lose. And says, okay, let's go out and go. How many of us as men, as women, have faced people that they don't care? That's where the Iranians are. That's where the Iranians are. And to try to negotiate, not going to work. President Trump has either intentionally or unintentionally embarrassed the Iranians. The Iranian nuclear deal was a fraud. Obama bribing them for $1.5 billion. It didn't pay. They're bullies. They're thugs. They're pimps. They're terrorists, right? So it didn't work. The Iranians still have the shenanigans. We came very close in 2008 of taking this program to Iran right before the latest revolution that was shut down. 2008, 2009? Right, 2009. And Obama didn't back the students, the kids that wanted to throw out the theocracy there. And now we have the Ayatollahs back in charge, and we have the Iranians shooting down our drones. The danger is you have to have those flights freely going through the Straits of Hormuz. That's what it comes down to. Coming up next, your thoughts. The president and Iran. Are you willing to support the war, the upcoming war?
I think we clearly need a measured response here. I think the world needs to see, honestly, smoke and fire. I think Kim Jong-un needs to see smoke and fire. There's been an attack on the U.S. military, and if we don't respond, we're incentivizing future attacks. I think it's time to act.
Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you, Ray Amaya. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. By the way, Ray pointing out to me off the air, that was from May 6th. That is how long it's been going on. Welcome to the longest day of the year. Of course, tomorrow, Boise Music Festival. Hope to see you at Expo Idaho. Pitbull, Tone Loc, Color Me Bad, you name it. They're all going to be there. We're talking about an issue concerning war. Are you ready to take down the Iranian regime? You have Congressman Mark Green saying, we have to answer this attack.
I think we clearly need a measured response here. I think the world needs to see, honestly, smoke and fire. I think Kim Jong-un needs to see smoke and fire. There's been an attack on the U.S. military, and if we don't respond, we're incentivizing future attacks. I think it's time to act.
We go to the phones. Liberal Steve joining us now on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Liberal Steve.
Good morning, Mr. Miller and America, and all those overseas listening to KIDO on their app, and you too up there in population 600 New Meadows. Yeah, I tell you, about 3 o'clock this morning I read that, and, I got to give Trump kudos. The guy knows how to make a deal. There's no doubt about it. I mean, hey, what's a drone? Nothing but metal and cameras, okay? They shot it out of the sky. It's U.S., it's U.S. owned. You don't do those things. And he had everybody up in the air. He was armed and ready to go. He was ready to cross that line in the sand. And at the last second, stand down, boys. Stand down. Now, that got back to the leader, because it could have been just some crazy CO in the Iranian military that shot that down. It had nothing to do with the leadership. He knows that. He even said that.
The same leadership that blew up a couple tankers. They're just rogue actors. Really, the Iranians are peaceful, loving people when they're not chanting death to America, funding terrorism, or making IEDs that kill and maim American troops. They're good people. They're good little Iranians. Ask Pastor Saeed about that.
My point. Who, the pornography watcher? My point.
Ask Pastor Saeed about the torture that he suffered for years and years under the good actors, under the mullahs and the ayatollahs in Iran.
Well, he would have got it worse under pro-life after what I heard him say at 10 to 5. Anyway, can I go back to what I was saying? That Iran now has an opportunity to back down and say, okay, Trump had everything ready to go. Civilians were going to die. Military was going to die. He had every pinned area ready to blow. Israel was armed. Everybody got a phone call. Hey, we're in the air. We're going to strike. Saudi Arabia got a phone call. Everybody that was on our side got a phone call. It's going to happen. And then at the 10th hour, stand down. Now, the Iranian leadership That's why I'm saying kudos to Trump. They're going, oh, man, we could have been at a full-scale war, and we are broke. We don't have a dime to even fund it. The people in the street are already uprising against our government. Or it can go the other way. They can say the religious leader nuts, like pro-life and the nuts out there with doctrines.
Please refrain from personally attacking people.
Well, because he attacks everybody else and calls them wimps and everything else. So don't give me any crap about that, Miller. Anyway, the zealots can say, okay, this is our chance to see Allah and end it all. And then it could start. But come on, we're 3.700,000 million square miles here in the U.S. Iran is 636,000 square miles. How long do you think it would take to turn that into dust with Israel and Saudi Arabia and us hitting them? Not very long.
Well, we don't need anybody else to hit them. We'll hit them.
Unless they want to go to Allah, they're going to call this whole thing off and negotiate. And I think kudos.
The Iranians don't want to negotiate. In fact, I believe that the Iranians view this as a great victory that Trump didn't retaliate. In fact, Nancy Pelosi had this to say concerning the shooting down of our drone and what must be done.
We know that the high-tension wires are up there, and we must do everything we can not to escalate the situation, but also to make sure that our personnel in the region are safe.
That's right.
Exactly.
Now, remember, the Iranians captured American sailors who were good American sailors and surrendered and held them during Obama's tenure. Sooner or later, you have to answer the charge.
And let them go. I pray to God that this doesn't turn into a war, because the only thing that's going to get hurt is Iranian, good, peace-loving citizens
that chant death to America all the time.
And our American boys and girls. Okay, that's the only thing that would come out of it.
So
and
President Trump is good. You agree with President Trump's move?
I agree with his move. I think it's a smart, and I'm saying kudos to him. It's deal or no deal, and he pulled back, and now all the military people are with the leaders going, hey, either we retaliate or we go to Allah. Or we stand down and get this thing worked out. So I'm hoping it goes the way of workout.
I doubt it.
War is nothing but pure evil.
I agree. We have to go now, but I appreciate your commitment and your contribution.
Hey, Kevin, one last question.
We've had a lot of them.
Did you read about the Kansas UFO?
No.
But that was in the news last night, too, in the early morning hours. Anyway, I think the aliens were in Kansas looking for a good barbecue. You stay fired up, Miller. Make it happen.
The one and only Liberal Steve, 628, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM, traffic and weather together. Good morning, Dave.
We have an amendment supported by every Democrat to the NDAA in the Senate. It's led by Senator Udall. It would require congressional approval of any funding for a conflict in Iran. It's supported by all of us. We are asking Leader McConnell to do the right thing and give us a vote next week on the NDAA on that amendment.
There you have Senator Chuck Schumer over what didn't happen last night. The president putting the planes in the air, the missiles on alert, and at the last minute did not order a strike on Iran.
There was an Iranian attack on a American asset that is in doubt as to who motivated it in terms of was it officially sanctioned or was it a rogue attack, whatever it is. It was Iranian.
Let's talk about it next. That is Nancy Pelosi, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Good morning, Maggie. Blessed to be with you, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you, Ray Amaya, for playing that song. You know, every time I hear that song, and maybe it's remnants of that book, The Ugly American, or being ethnocentric, which is judging another person's culture by your own, reminds me of being in the Kuwait airport. And as a kid, listening to that song, The Clash, that song just kept going on and on in my mind when I'm in the Kuwait City airport getting ready to go out with the troops when we went into Iraq. It's just amazing. Every time I hear that song, it just reminds me of it. Anyway, coming up, more of your phone calls about the tensions with Iran. Do you support the president's decision to stand down? Joining us now, Rachel Sutherland, Fox News Radio on KIDO Talk Radio, live from Capitol Hill. Rachel, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Kevin.
So we've got the Supreme Court decision, and then we'll, if you don't mind, talk a little bit about congressional reaction yesterday and probably early this morning to what didn't happen. But a big decision out of the Supreme Court that a lot of people are calling confusing concerning a cross.
Well, this decision actually I think was fairly clear. There is a cross on public land in Maryland. It's in honor of, it's really a memorial to honor World War I veterans. It's going to be allowed to remain on public land, even though the American Humanist Association, a group of atheists and agnostics, had argued that it violated separation of church and state. The other side said, look, I mean, this is a war memorial. This was originally set up by mothers of World War II soldiers almost 100 years ago, and was eventually taken over by public land and has been tended by the local government for quite a while. And so the local government was arguing, this is a war memorial. It's not meant to be religious in nature, and it has historical significance. So in a 7-2 decision, the justices decided to allow the cross to remain. And so I was kind of surprised it wasn't like a 5-4. The only dissenters were Justices Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Sonia Sotomayor.
Right. It was a pretty, for a Supreme Court, a 7-2 decision is pretty big.
It really is. And it sends a message to others who might want to file similar lawsuits that there's already a precedent set here at the court, and they're probably not going to hear a case like that, because there could be the argument to take down the Ten Commandments at the Supreme Court. So in this case, the justice is saying this really doesn't have anything to do with the First Amendment clause about not setting up an official religion in the United States.
Moving on from that, we're talking about what didn't happen last night. And yesterday, members of Congress, high-ranking members of Congress, were briefed by the White House concerning the situation with Iran. What's going on?
That's right. Well, right now we're still trying to figure out exactly why airstrikes were called off at the last second. There were planes in the air, ships at the ready, getting ready to do a strategic limited strike on radar and missile installations in Iran in retaliation for shooting down that U.S. surveillance drone, which there's a dispute over where it was. The U.S. says it was in international airspace. Iran says it was in their airspace. And so we understand from Reuters that the president went to the nation of Oman, asked them to pass a message to Iran saying that we don't want war, we want talks. Oman said, yeah, we'll send a message, but Iran's not going to negotiate. So right now we're trying to figure out exactly, why this mission was called off at the last second. We're understanding from a source at the National Security Council that all they're saying right now is we do not comment on pre-operational military planning. And that could mean that just because these strikes were called off temporarily, it doesn't mean they're called off permanently.
Indeed. And, of course, the president wants to negotiate. We'll see how that goes. And it seems as if, at least initially, Congress is behind him, but they want the ability to give him the authorization of force. Always a stickler in times like this.
Yeah, it is. And we hear this argument quite a bit. There are some in Congress who are saying, hey, you need to get our approval. But the administration may argue this is an okay move under the War Powers Authorization Act. So, they've been briefed on it. We know that members of Congress have been briefed. Hawkish members like Republican Senator Lindsey Graham are on board with the idea of taking Iran to task for its recent aggressions. Others are saying let's not let a miscalculation lead us into war. So right now we're just waiting for a word from the White House on what happened last night, if we get any, and what is the plan moving forward. And if they are planning strikes, we probably won't hear about them.
Rachel, I have a feeling that you'll be on top of that story, like everything else.
Yeah, that's what we do here. We'll keep you up to date.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
Our great friend Rachel Sutherland with analysis. Liberty Linda, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. We don't want to go to war with Iran. I have heard that Iran wants us to go to war with them because they have sleeper cells all over the United States and, Kevin, even the countries that support us. So, Kevin, what we're doing now is we're hearing about these deaths of individuals who are out jogging alone or driving somewhere alone, and they are found dead. And this is the way they're doing it. Instead of, driving off the road and hitting, 15 to 20 people, then the person gets arrested, they're taking them out one at a time in our country. So that's what I believe was going on there. And anyway.
Right, but what you're saying, it's almost like we're afraid of them. Look, Liberty Linda, you're a smart young lady. Bottom line is, sooner or later, we have to deal with the Iranians?
Absolutely have to deal with them. I had a neighbor once that was from Iran, but he lived here for 20 years, and he goes back and forth all the time. He says that his family, and there's so many Iranians there that love the United States and love our ways, but they're afraid of their own government. And that's what's going on in Iran. And, they can see freedom here, and they don't have it there. So that's one of the things that we need to look at. But I believe Trump is extremely intelligent, and he's doing the right thing right now. He must know all of these things, Kevin. And so I really believe he knows what he's doing. Wow. What a great president we have. He's not doing everything. I think he should have closed our borders, Kevin, a long, long time ago. But it looks like he's going to take care of it. Doesn't it sound like it to you?
One can hope, Liberty Linda. One can hope. I'm a little worried about the president because you've got the impeachment caucus. You've got the Iranians that have nothing to lose. You've got Joe Biden that's going to appeal to squishy Republicans out there. And who's backing the president besides the people?
No, Biden will go with whatever the wind, whichever way the wind blows, sounds like to me. But I do believe he'll be the one that will go up against our president. And but none of them have anything to offer our country. Not any of them. Biden's just there. And I do believe he will go up against our president. But there's nothing there. They have nothing. And you and I know that.
Well, it's not about having nothing, though. It's about, one could say they had nothing on Nixon, and they got him. You compare what Nixon did to Clinton and Obama,
Yes.
Nixon should still be in office, in my opinion. But I've got to run, Liberty Linda. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Kevin. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, Liberty Linda, very excited about Boise Music Festival. Coming up tomorrow, going to be a fun time. Tone Loc, Pitbull, Color Me Bad. People are very excited about this. And the weather, probably the best we've had in quite some time. Sometimes, it should be in June, triple digits, but 70s to 80s, high 70s, low 80s like it was yesterday. Boy, there could be a ton of people there. Hope to see you there tomorrow. Back to the phones, and we go to Aaron in Nampa with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, Aaron.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. Yeah, no, I really support the president on this one. I guess what baffles me is that, he ran on really trying to get us out of these ridiculous wars. But I don't understand why he surrounded himself with all these neocons. Bolton, Pompeo. I'm sorry, but I just view these guys as being chicken hawks. It would just be ridiculous. I mean, Iran is even more complicated than Iraq. I just think we need to have an America First foreign policy.
I would agree with you on that. He might get himself into a situation he can't get himself out of. His foreign policy has been spot on, keeping America first. But if the Iranians keep going, and they're crazy, they're not even wacky, they're crazy, they're diabolical, and they might try to put it to Trump, leaving him no choice but to fire back to escalate. Your thoughts?
Well, I don't know. What is our drone doing over there? I mean, what are we doing over there? It has nothing to do with the security of Caldwell, Idaho, and, Lincoln, Nebraska. I mean, If we're going to have an America First foreign policy, bring our troops home and defend our borders. I just don't understand. We got to get out of that snake pit. I see how it's helping out Saudi Arabia. I see how it's helping out Israel. I don't see how it's helping out America First. Bring our guys home. We want more tax cuts. We want smaller government. And then we'll just have peace and prosperity. Defend our borders. I don't get it. And these Bolton and Pompeo, I'm sorry, but, they just seem like chicken hawks to me.
Great point, Aaron. We'll let that resonate, and we'll have people answer your questions. I've got a few ideas, but we'll hear what the folks listening in the Treasure Valley have to say. Thank you, sir.
Yep, you bet.
Aaron, supporting the president. Kevin Miller in the morning, 580-5436. 580-KIDO. If you're just waking up, the president of the United States did not, I repeat, did not attack the diabolical Iranians. Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, initially supporting the president. Here's our own Jennifer Griffin on where the drone was, why it was shot down, and why it was important on KIDO Talk Radio.
Iran's foreign minister in a tweet says the U.S. drone was flying over Iran, adding the U.S. drone took off from the United Arab Emirates in, quote, stealth mode and violated Iranian airspace. We've retrieved sections of the U.S. military drone in our territorial waters where it was shot down. U.S. officials say the U.S. Navy drone was not over Iran and was shot down roughly 20 miles from Iran's shoreline. International airspace is 12 nautical miles. U.S. Navy officials say the drone was flying over the Strait of Hormuz.
And the reason why the drone was over the Strait of Hormuz, looking for mines, that is a choke point when it comes to oil tankers, oil distribution. It's been that way for years. That's what the drone was doing. Hank in Boise joins Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Hank.
Good morning. The cross of Lorraine, which is the actual cross that's on that cemetery outside of Baltimore, is in memory of the 79th Division. And they were caught in a futile attack on September 26, 1918, on the Meuse-Argonne offensive. And basically, there was a general by the name of Robert Bullard who decided, because he was glory hounding or he was hot dogging, did not give him the support he's supposed to give by flanking the German position with the 4th Division. So these people were faced with a head-on assault with no support. And a lot of them died uselessly and needlessly. It was one of the biggest foul-ups and mix-ups of the First World War. And I think it'd be indeed tragic to have that cross down, or the memory of those people defamed for their sacrifice, which in a lot of ways needless for a bunch of idiot people who don't have any kind of tolerance for Christianity in the name of imposing on the rest of us their humanism. So I feel strongly about this thing, and it's not primarily a religious thing. It's a symbol of respect to these men, and they don't even have the decency to give these men the proper respect. I know it's happened 100 years ago, but I think that their memory needs to be respected, just like the people at Pearl Harbor or anybody else. We're going to take the crosses down in those military cemeteries because that would be the logical sequence there. Are we going to go to the Arlington National Cemetery and pull every cross, every reference out of that? Because that would be the consequence if the Supreme Court had ruled the other way.
Well, all right, Hank. We appreciate that history of that event.
One more point real quick. As far as this last caller about neocons and stuff like that, the point of it is that the United States is going for the free passage of the seas. The Iranians have been blocking international shipments for freedom of the seas by their tactics. I don't think you can get peace or permanent peace if you have piracy on a large scale pull out of that area and chaos. And I'll tell you what, if he thinks for a moment that the Iranians will leave us alone if we pull out of that region, he's got something coming to him, because they'll come right to our doorstep. These people are fanatic. They're fanatic religion. They want to oppose Islam on the rest of us, and we are Satans because we do not follow Allah. And let's put the realities to the test. These people are not.
Well, that's why I don't think that the president's going to have a choice. I don't think the president's going to have he's not going to have a choice. They don't want to negotiate. It's go time.
Yeah, they're not going to leave us alone. If I mean the guy, I wish he was right. We could pull out. We could simply get out of the area, but they're going to take the war to our doorstep if otherwise. So I'll leave it at that.
Hank, God bless. Kevin Miller in the morning. Remember, coming up next hour, we'll have the latest on the wall situation, and then this crazy situation in Oregon where we have Oregon state senators that are Republicans that are hiding in Idaho. We are offering them sanctuary. We are offering them the use of our broadcast facilities. We've got a shower. We've got a couple couches here. It's a very Spartan-like existence, but we will again be the Freedom Underground Railroad for all Oregon State Republicans, seeking not to be prosecuted, seeking not to be apprehended by the Oregon State Police, ordered by Governor Kate Brown. We'll talk more about that story and more on KIDOTalkRadio.com. But it's true, Senate Republicans from Oregon are fleeing and are being pursued by the Oregon State Police. Much more on the Iranian situation. You're listening to Kevin Miller on your home for Hannity, KIDO Talk Radio.